Yo, 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 yo. What's going on, y'all? How we doing? How we feeling? Good to see. I like how Numb popped up as the song that's playing. I was like, it's definitely not, but okay, whatever. I guess that plugin needs to update a little bit, but what's going on, y'all? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, here we are. This is like, second to last episode. Yeah, technically. Or not tomorrow. What is it? Next week is the fantasy football championship, essentially. Oh, excuse me again. Sorry. But yeah, so on the docket, as per usual, we're gonna cover week 2 of the fantasy playoffs, and then go into what the fantasy football championships are looking like. So it's actually probably gonna be a shorter episode-ish because, like I said, well, not like I said, but like we've been trending for these playoffs is that we don't really do power rankings because not really necessarily need to, just because they're not really going to change up until we actually finish the playoffs. I mean, we can do them per week, but But anywho, so without too much further ado, we're going to get into the reviews first. Good old Fantasy House Live set. Alright, here we go. So week 16, it was a big one. And in our first matchup, and it was our game of the week, the game of the week was between the Desert Swarm and All Hail the Sun God. Desert Swarm did get that first round bye, and Desert Swarm actually did pull off the win. It was actually quite a narrow win, 116 to 120. Desert Swarm picking up the win and moving on to the championships. They were kind of my odds-on favorite to win. If we move into the next matchup, which is our second, I guess, matchup to see who is second final semi. Oh my gosh. If we move into our second semi-final matchup, Peanut Oil and D. Adams Family took one head-to-head, and D. Adams Family, the other top dog who also got the first round bye last week, is moving on into the championships. This week he won by a score of 128 to 103. Then in our third matchup of the week, in our winner's consolation, I guess, ladder, Team Nugent got the win over Team Ditka this week by a score of 153 to 114. Then if we move into the consolation ladders, starting off with Pool of Dumpster Water versus CD's Nuts matchup, in which case CD's Nuts was actually able to get the win by a somewhat narrow margin, 103 to 109. Then in the closest matchup of the week, it's the reigning, and it won't be, I guess technically still reigning, not really defending champion because they're in the consolation ladder, but Gelsimi Softly will be passing the title on this year, winning this week against the Young Guns by a score of 122 to 121. And then last, but most certainly not least, we have Better on Paper taking on Bob's Burgers, and Better on Paper getting the win this week by a score of 100 to 93. But as always, we are going to take a closer look into how these all broke down. Now I get to relive mistakes I made that cost me a championship. Oh boy, smile through the pain, they say. But alright, let's switch it up. We need to turn that off, and then we turn on the break it down window with display. Perfect. Move that over. Alrighty. Just trying to shape up the window, frame it up. Okay. So starting off with the QBs as per usual. Starting off with All Hail the Sun God here, who had Jordan Love, who's actually been looking pretty good these last few weeks. Able to get 26 points this week in what shouldn't have been such a narrow shootout win with the Carolina Panthers, but we did win. Please, for the love of God, Packers, get rid of Joe Barry. I know there's no way, shape, or form they're going to see this, but my God, please get rid of him. Anywho, Desert Swarm, I did get a blessing in disguise with Brock Purdy having his worst game of his career, throwing 4 interceptions. And only getting 4 points on the week in that loss to Baltimore. And we'll take a look at the running backs. Tony Pollard, in that loss to Miami, only able to get 5 points. While Austin Eckler, pretty modest day, 11 points in the loss to Buffalo for All Hail the Sun God. We move into the second. Isaiah Pacheco, I think he got ruled out of that game. Did he? I can't remember. Either way, only get 10 points out of Pacheco this week in a surprise loss to the Raiders. While Travis Etienne Also kind of underperformed this week, only 6 points this week in a loss to Tampa. If we move into the wide receivers, so man, if this is proving that if this was ever, like I said, this is already my odds-on favorite to win the league. So if there was ever a week to capitalize, this was it. And we're about to get to his saving grace. Well, we'll get to one of his saving graces, but hey, anyways, as you can see, I'm still a little bitter. But hey, GG's, bro, you won. Intel, or not, wow, Tyreek Hill able to get 18 points, so actually scrolled back a little bit. I honestly thought he was going to get 30, so 18 is, kind of more along the lines of where I guess he was going to get. In that win over Dallas, while Amon-Ra St. Brown continuing to just have an amazing season. Well, there's a few rocky games there with the Lions, but they seem to become all the way back, getting 28 points this week in a win over Minnesota. Then if we go into the next wide receivers, for All Hail the Sun Guide here, we have Rashee Rice, who has made himself the bona fide number one wide receiver there in Kansas City. Pretty modest day, getting 11 points in the loss to the Raiders, while Amari Cooper here, as we all know, if you saw on Sunday, had himself a career day for himself in a Browns uniform, putting up an insane 51 points. So it just didn't matter. It didn't even matter. Pretty much Cooper just paced the whole team. Then that was that win over Houston. Then if we look into the tight ends, Trey McBride was able to get 9 points in the loss to Chicago, while opposite side TJ Hockenson also able to get 9 points in that loss to Detroit. But I did see news today that he did tear his ACL and MCL, so TJ Hockenson's season is donezo, which honestly is probably a good thing, because for at least it's good. I mean, let me rephrase that. Not a good thing you got the injury. It's a good thing that my team is out, because we're just injuries, so many injuries. If we get into the flex spot, Dontavian Wicks also got knocked out of this matchup with an injury. He got 10 points in before he did exit. David Montgomery, I think he was one of the first to score during the week, so he was able to put up 14 points in the win over Minnesota. Then if we go into the Colts, and here was one of the other daggers that really hurt. Jaguars able to get 1 point, so would have been able to capitalize on that. But the Colts D really let me down, as I probably should have known. Able to get a good solid -3 points, which just absolutely brutal. And then if we move into the kickers, we'll start with All Hail the Sun Guide here. Cairo Santos continuing his hot streak. At first it was a little rocky there. The Bears getting the win in Arizona. Cairo putting up 10, while Brandon Aubrey only able to throw up 9, so pretty close, but he's still having an amazing season, even though they lost to Miami. That is it. All right, now we'll go into our next matchup, which was Peanut Oil and D. Adams Family. All right. Starting off with the QBs, Josh Allen got 27 points this week in a win over the Chargers, while for the Adams family, Matthew Stafford able to get 24, so kind of pretty close to each other in that win over New Orleans. Then Saquon for the Adams family able to get 19 points in that loss to Philly, while for Peanut Oil over here, Alvin Kamara only able to get 8 points this week in a loss to the Rams. Then sticking with Peanut Oil, Ty Chandler, pretty, I'd say, I guess, rather modest, 7 points in that loss to Detroit, while Ezekiel Elliott just came alive for the Adams family here. Who would have expected it? Well, actually, people that were following probably did, because Rahamondre was ruled out, so Zeke was going to be the obvious back, able to get 21 points in that win over Denver. Then if we move into the wide receivers, Stephon Diggs only able to get 7 points this week in a win over the Chargers, while Deebo Samuel only able to get 9 points this week in a loss to Baltimore. So it's, pretty similar production out of those number one wide receivers, which, you usually wouldn't see. Typically you see more production out of both Stephon and Deebo. Deebo is more of like a product of just being on that insanely stacked Niners team, while Stephon Diggs, there are other, they do like to spread the ball around there in Buffalo, but you'd still expect Stephon to be that almost number one go-to route right away, or go-to look. If we look into the wide receiver twos, Cooper Kupp able to get 10 points this week in a win over New Orleans, while Chris Godwin for the Adams family here able to get 13 points, having himself a pretty sneaky good season in the win over Jacksonville. If we look at the tight ends, starting with Peanut Oil once again, Isaiah Likely filling in for the injured Mark Andrews, getting 8 points this week in a win over San Fran, while George Kittle able to get 19 points this week in a loss to Baltimore. Then if we look at the flex match, and that was for Kittle, was for D. Adams Family. If we look at the flex matchups, we have Nico Collins, who's going to get 13 points this week in a loss to Cleveland for D. Adams Family, while Curtis Samuel for Peanut Oil only able to get 3 points in a loss to the Jets. Then if we look at the defenses, we have we have the Browns able to get 9 points in that win over Houston, while the Broncos able to get 6 points in that loss to New England, which I don't think anyone was expecting. Then if we look at, hey, what's going on, Janae? Ooh, I like that Dratini. Oh, that's cool. Or is that Dragonair? Might be Dragonair. But either way, good to see you. How's it going, fam? Appreciate you. Hope you had a happy Christmas. Oh, hey, I realized my seat started going back. When did I take the pin out for it to do that? Vavi. Oh yeah, we were talking about kickers. Peanut Oil had Youngwei Koo, who had himself a day, getting 19 points in that win over Indy. While Evan McPherson for D. Adams Family here, only able to get 3 points in the loss to Pittsburgh. Alright, moving into our third matchup of the week. Oh, I didn't see it change so fast, I didn't even see it. Okay. Now, starting off at the top once again with Team Ditka. Justin Fields actually had himself a pretty solid day, 26 points in that win over Arizona. While for Team Nugent, Sam Howell had himself a negative point day. That's the first one I've seen that from a quarterback. I would have loved to have seen that from Brock Purdy, but you know, it is what it is. Sam Howell putting up a -1 in that loss to the Jets. If we continue for Team Nuge here, Jahmyr Gibbs able to get 24 points in that win over Minnesota. While if we flip over to Team Ditka again, who had Devon Achane able to get 4 points this week in the win over Dallas. Sticking with Team Ditka once again here, who had Breece Hall, who's having himself an awesome season as well, getting 43 points this week in a win over Washington, a 2-point win over Washington, might I add. While Raheem Mostert for Team Nugent here, able to get to 12 points, so pretty modest point line there in the win for Dallas. Sticking with Team Nuge once again, moving into the wide receivers, we have Jalen Waddle, able to get 6 points this week in that win over Dallas. While if we flip over to Team Ditka, who had AJ Brown, continuing to have a stellar season, more modest stat line this week. I say that he still scored 14 points in that win over the Giants. And if we go into the wide receiver twos, we have Deontay Johnson, who was able to score 3 points this week in a win over Cincinnati, while Mike Evans for Team Nugent here able to get 27 points in the win over Jacksonville. And that was a bit of a thrashing there, just, winning 30-2. 30-2, 30-12. That is not what that says. Lol. If we move into the tight ends, we'll stick with Team Nugent here, who had Evan Engram able to get 17 points this week in a loss to Tampa, while Sam Laporta for Team Ditka here able to get 4 points in the win over Minnesota. Then if we look into the flex spots, we have Jerome Ford getting 9 points in the wow, lost my train of thought. Holy shit, my bad. Let's just restart. Jerome Ford getting 9 points in that win over Houston, while Puka Nacua for Team Nugent here able to get 33 points, sheesh, in that win over New Orleans. Then if we look at the defenses, I will stick with Team Nugent here since that's just on the side we are already on. The Falcons able to get 13 points this week in a win over Indy. Man, I should have fucking taken them instead. While the Bears, on the other hand, for Team Ditka here, he rode the Bears through and through here, able to get 3 points this week in a win over Arizona. Then if we go into the kickers, we have Jake Moody able to get 6 points this week in a loss to Baltimore, while Cameron Dicker able to get 21 huge points in a loss to Buffalo. All right, going into our fourth matchup of the week. Why can't I grab the thing and bring it down? We have Pool of Dumpster Water taking on CD's Nuts. All right. So starting off with, of course, the QBs. We have Derek Carr getting 28 points this week despite losing to the Rams for Pool of Dumpster Water. Then if we flip to CD here, who had Jalen Hurts able to get 26 points as well, so almost a pretty similar stat line in the win over the Giants. And that was a pretty narrow one too, like it shouldn't have been that close. Anyways, if we move into the set of running backs, we have for CD here, we have Rachaad White getting 19 points this week in a win over Jacksonville, while Christian McCaffrey for Pool of Dumpster Water, one of the MVP candidates. You know, it's still weird to me that both Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy are both in the MVP conversation, but here we are, 2023. But Christian McCaffrey getting 25 points this week in the loss to Baltimore. Then if we stick with running backs once again, but we're going to stay on Pool of Dumpster Water side with Alexander Madison, who also had himself just barely a bit of a negative day, not even being able to score a point in the loss to Detroit. Well, Chuba Hubbard in that loss to Green Bay was able to actually get 12 points, and I think he had a touchdown himself, so, you know, expected against that really shitty Joe Barry defense. Thanks, Joe. Anywho, sticking with CD's nuts here, and the former Packer and Devontae Adams, Miss Ute, able to get 1 point this week in a win over Kansas City, while on the opposite side here for Pool Dumpster Water, who had Chris Olave, able to get 23 big ones this time in a loss to the Rams. Now sticking with Pool of Dumpster Water's team, we'll just look at Tyler Lockett in that next set of wide receivers. He was Lockett able to get 26, yeah, right, 16 points in that win over Tennessee, while CD Lamb for the, aforementioned CD's Nuts team, able to 25 points in the loss to Miami. Sticking with CD once again and moving into the tight end spot, it is Jake Ferguson, aka Fergie, getting 8 points this week in a loss to Miami. While if we look over for Pool Dumpster Water, who had Tyler Conklin starting this week, getting 7 points in the win over Washington. Then if we move into the flex spot, we'll just stick with, once again, Pool Dumpster Water, who had Zach Charbonnet, able to get not even 1 point, so about a half point this way, better than going negative in the win over Tennessee, while Michael Pittman Jr., I don't think he played, I think he was ruled out, and scored 0. Then if we look into the defenses here, we had, we'll stick with, oops, bad, I guess I didn't do that, the CD's Nuts, who had Dallas, of course. They threw up a goose egg because they lost narrowly to Miami, which is unfortunate. While on the opposite side, Vikings defense only did 3 points and playing a tough Detroit team. And then finally, we have the kickers, and we'll stay with Pool of Dumpster Water, who had Will Lutz able to get no points, so another donut scored in a losing effort to New England. While Justin Tucker was able to get 16 points in the win over San Fran. All right, this moves us on into the narrowest point margin of the week. It still saw Kelsey Me Softly get to the win. So starting off at the top, once again with the QBs, we have Patrick Mahomes for the Young Guns getting 19 points this week in a loss to the Raiders. While for Kelsey Me Softly, they had Mr. High-Knees himself, let Russ Cook, able to get 25 points this week in a loss to New England. And if we move into the running backs, we have Bijan Robinson able to get 19 points this week for Kelsey Me Softly in a win over Indy. While for the Young Guns, they have let James Cook able to only get 5 points this week despite winning over the Chargers. Then if we move into the next set of running backs, we have Kyron Williams able to get 16 points, and that is for the Young Guns, while Kenneth Walker Jr. Only able to get 6 points this week in a win over Tennessee for Kelsey Me Softly. Then if we move into the first set of wide receivers, we have Calvin Ridley for Kelsey Me Softly here, able to get 25 points this week, so kind of having a nice bounce back game, despite losing to Tampa Bay. While on the opposite side here for Young Guns, he matches that effort out of T. Higgins with 25 points from his own in a loss to Pittsburgh. Then if we move into the wide receiver twos, there is DK Metcalf able to get 15 points this week in a win over Tennessee, while Brandon Ayuk only able to get, I should say only, but able to get 17 points this week in a loss to Baltimore. Then if we move into the tight ends, we have Kyle Pitts able to get 13 points this week in a win over Indy, while that's for the Young Guns. While Travis Kelce only able to get 9 points this week in a surprise loss to the Chargers. Then if we go into the flex spot, For Kelsey Softly, who played Jaden Reed, but Jaden Reed, I don't think he did play. So obviously that is the 0 spot there. While Scary Terry McLaurin, 8 points this week in a loss to the Jets. Then if we go into the defenses, we have the Commanders, who were able to get 2 points in a loss to the Jets. While for Kelsey Softly, they had the Chiefs, who were only able to get 7 points despite losing to the Raiders. Then if we go into the kickers, we have Jake Elliott able to get 17 points in a win over the Giants, while Lucas Havrisk able to get 11 points in the win over New Orleans for Kelsey Softly. It's a very weird song. Let's go skip it. Alright, moving into our final matchup. That's funny. Anywho, quick little sipski. So starting off at the top once again, and going with our QBs. Starting off with better on paper, and Lamar, who is actually currently looking like a MVP candidate and favorite at the moment. He scored 25. I can't read, what the hell? That is 25 points this week in a win over San Francisco. Whoa. Bob's Burgers, on the other hand, able to get 16 points out of Jared Goff this week in a win over Minnesota. Then if we look at the running backs, we have for Bob's Burgers, Derrick Henry able to get 21 points this week in a big win over Seattle. While if we flip on over to better on paper, it is Joe Mixon able to get 9 points in a loss to Pittsburgh. Then if we stay with better on paper, who had Gus Edwards able to get 14 points this week out of the Gus bus in a win over the San Francisco 49ers. While for Bob's Burgers, DeAndre Swift able to get able to get a modest 15 in a win over the Giants. Sticking with Bob's Burgers, but moving into the wide receivers now, we have DeAndre Hopkins, who had got 4 points this week in a loss to Seattle. While for better on paper, Gabe Davis had himself a day, getting 23 points in a win over the Chargers. Staying with better on paper, but moving into the next set of wide receivers, it is Michael Gallup, only getting 2 points this week in a loss to Miami. While Rondale Moore for Bob's Burgers able to get 5 points in a loss to the Bears. Moving into the tight ends, we have Pat Freiermuth for Bob's Burgers, scoring no points in that win over Cincy. Well, Cole Kmet had himself a pretty decent day, scoring 14 points in that win over Arizona. Then if we look at the flex spots, we have, from better on paper here, it is OBJ, able to get 3 points this week in a win over San Fran. While Garrett Wilson able to get 15 points this week in a win over Washington. Now if we switch gears once again into the defenses, we'll stick with Bob's Burgers, who had the Lions defense go off for 11 points this week in a win over Minnesota. While the Niners defense, for better on paper, only able to get 3 points this week in a loss to Baltimore. Then finally, in the kicker spot, we have Tyler Bass for better on paper here, able to get 6 points in a win over the Chargers, while Matt Gay able to get 4 points in a loss to Atlanta. Alright. Now, that technically brings us to the end of our review. Which now means we have to go to the next week. So, is it going to let me go back? Yeah, okay. So now we are going to do the quick little preview of what championship week is shaping up like. We'll wait for the little Carl Casey thing to go in. Alright, so for this week 17 playoffs, round 3 preview. Oh shit, what up, DJ Sir Blaze? Hey, you don't see me. I meant that unironically too. It's like, you can't see me.
I see you.
You can't see me. That's also ironic because of the thing that just played. That was hilarious. What's good? Not too much. Vibing. Just doing this quick episode of Fantasy House Live and then hopping off. I'm not really streaming for too long. I'll be popping on over pretty much right after this. But Good to see you, Dudeski. Anywho. Alright. In our winners bracket, aka the championship match, which is obviously why it's going to be our game of the week, it is The Addams Family taking on the Desert Swarm. Both these teams are coming in at 1 second. Apologies. Alright. So like I said, in that first matchup we have, and in our championship matchup, it's The Addams Family taking on the Desert Swarm. That is Desert Swarm, our number 1 overall top dog, taking on the number overall 2 top dog in The Addams Family. Then in our winner consolation bracket, aka our, I guess this will be our 3rd place game. It is Peanut Oil taking on All Hail the Sun God. This is, I guess technically the records don't really matter, but for that championship matchup, it is The Addams Family has a record of 11-3, while Desert Swarm has a record of 12-2. Peanut Oil comes into this matchup this week with an 8-6 record, while All Hail the Sun God has 9-5 on the season. Then in our next matchup, it is a rematch of the last week. Team Dicka and Team Nuge going head-to-head once again. Team Dicka coming in this matchup at 8-6, while Team Nugent coming in at 10-4. They were upset by Peanut Oil to be knocked out in that first set of matchups. Then in our consolation bracket, we have Kelsey Me Softly taking on CD's Nuts. Kelsey Me Softly coming in at 5-9 on this matchup, while CD's Nuts comes in even at 7-7. Then if we go and look at Better on Paper, or next matchup, which is Better on Paper taking on Pool of Dumpster Water. It is Better on Paper comes in the matchup at 3-11, while Pool of Dumpster Water comes in at 4-10. And then in our last matchup of the week, it is the Young Guns taking on Bob's Burgers. Young Guns coming in at 3-11, and Bob's Burgers coming in at 4-10. All right. Now let's take a quick little gander into how these are shaping up, make some quick little picks, and then make some quick actual picks for the upcoming games, and then we'll get on out of here. Alright. Let's do that. Break it down. Alright, here we go. So this is The Addams Family taking on Desert Swarm. So starting off with the QBs, we have Matthew Stafford and the Rams taking on the Giants versus Brock Purdy and the Niners taking on Washington. Oh man. Probably. probably just gonna have to go with Purdy on this one, just because I just expect the Niners just to be a buzzsaw through Washington. I don't expect the Rams or the Giants to be too much of anything. Oh my god! 1 second. Like I said, or was saying, Giants they're kind of like up and down. They'll kind of surprise you, but I just think current state of the Commanders with current state of the San Fran, probably Brock Purdy to throw up bigger numbers. Unless they hold them out, but we'll see. If we look at the next set, we have the first set of running backs here, and Saquon Barkley and the Giants taking on the Rams versus Tony Pollard and Dallas taking on Detroit. Ooh, that's gonna be a great matchup to watch. That's a Saturday matchup. I don't know why, but I like the Saquon in this one. I know the Rams are going to be pretty good defensively, but the way the Giants have been playing these last few times, they're playing a little pizzazz. I think maybe Saquon might have a better day. While Tony Pollard, they're coming off a loss to Miami. Detroit, another tough defense. So we'll see what kind of moxie Dallas has got. Then if we go into the next set of running backs, we have Travis Etienne in Jacksonville taking on Javonte Williams in Denver taking on the Chargers. Man, Chargers aren't playing particularly good ball right now. Travis Etienne, but that matchup with Carolina is just too good. Probably gonna have to go with Travis Etienne in this one. Although the Chargers aren't very good, and Javonte has actually been doing pretty good as of late. So this one could actually be a little bit more evenly matched. All right, now here's where things get interesting. So now we got Stephon Diggs in Buffalo taking on New England versus Tyreek Hill in Miami taking on Baltimore. Baltimore, super tough defense, probably one of the best in the league. That's why they are. Well, that's why the Ravens are one of the best teams in the league at the moment, especially the AFC. probably Super Bowl favorites for a lot of people. They're going to be playing super tough. Miami, they just beat Dallas, who's another pretty tough secondary, but this one's even tougher. So we'll really see what Tua and the boys got, especially with Tyreek, who is in the MVP conversation as well. But if you look on the opposite side here, Stephon Diggs, that matchup with a not very good New England defense that is actually coming up off of a surprise win over Denver last week. Although Russell is not Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's been playing much better as of late. Same thing with all these Bills. So give me, in a surprise one, give me Stephon Diggs have a better day. Probably not even gonna watch me eat my words later. Then if we go into the next set of wide receivers, we have Devontae Smith and Philly taking on Arizona versus Amari Cooper and Cleveland taking on the Jets. Jets obviously have a pretty good secondary. Especially if Sauce Gardner's playing. I mean, you really think Sauce and the boys are really gonna let Amari drop 500 yards on him?
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Get on up! It's bump set time. Cool running.
Well. What's going on, Sir Blaze? Thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate you. You didn't even need to do that, my dude. As I was lurking, I was literally about to come to you after I was done. So that's strange, because I will not be on for long after this. Just fair warning. But what's going on, B? Great to see you. Hope you're doing well, staying safe. Much love as always. Hope you guys are doing swell and had a fantastic Christmas. So Merry Christmas, by the way. Well, yeah. I was not planning on streaming for super duper long, especially because the wipe is for Tarkov is happening tomorrow, so probably is going to be playing some of that. It's also been a bit of a funky day, so appreciate you, Sir Blaze. How were the tunes? How was everything, brother? I know your set was killer as usual. I was lurking before I went live, and then I switched to DMCA music so it can move over on YouTube a little bit easier. But when I was listening, your set was sick, brother, as always. Hey, thank you, Cream Bee, for the Merry Christmas. Do the half heart. I could actually do it. I think it's this way. Yeah, do like that. You get it. But you already know what it is. We're doing the Fantasy House Live, which is our community kind of fantasy league, and this is just kind of like a fantasy talk show. We are in the Fantasy Football Championships. We are going over actually and taking our picks of the which. What am I trying to see here? Which players we think we're going to do this week? Still don't have the other half. I mean, I could try to. This is not even what a heart looks like. I'm just gonna stop. I don't know what I'm trying to do now. I guess I could do it this way. It's like cheating, but anywho. Let's see. Oh yeah, we were looking at the next set of wide receivers, which once again, Amari had a career day last week, but this week he gets the Jets. Is going to be a much tougher challenge, or at least I think everyone would expect it to be a much tougher challenge. Give me Devontae Smith actually in this one to have the better day. Oh boy. Let's go into the tight ends. We have George Kittle and San Fran taking on Washington versus Trey McBride and Arizona taking on Philly. Oh man, these matchups I'm seeing right now are not in the favor of Desert Swarm right now. Trey McBride, even though he is being utilized very nicely in Arizona's offense, he's taking on the Eagles, who are one of the best teams in the NFC. That's going to be a tough matchup. If you look at the matchup for George Kittle, though, going against a Commanders team, which has just been pretty much fucking awful. Kittle had 19 points himself this last week. Have fun calling me, so it was great to see you as always, fam. Appreciate you stopping in for a little bit, Queen Bee. I know, obviously, you were coming in with Blaze and then I appreciate you so much. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next time as always. Stay safe, please, and we'll see you later. Much love. But back to talking some football. I just think George Kittle, the matchup is way better. Way more in the favor of Kittle there, since they're just going to be steamrolling the Commanders. If we move into the flex spot real quick, we got Nico Collins in Houston taking on Tennessee versus David Montgomery in Detroit taking on Dallas. If CJ Stroud plays, Maybe Nico Collins has the better day here. Head upstairs, be right back. Hey, do your thing, DJ. DJ Sir Blaze, we ain't going nowhere, brother. Well, at least not for right now. David Montgomery, on the other hand, did score the first touchdown. Then they plan to use Jahmyr Gibbs more. I know that's been kind of how they've been doing things there in Detroit, but they do get a tough defense in Dallas. I'll say for right now, David Montgomery have the better day, but Nico Collins having the better day is really going to be pretty much contingent on if CJ Stroud plays. Now, if we move into the defenses, we have the Broncos and Denver taking on the Chargers versus Jacksonville taking on Carolina. I think Jacksonville's defense is going to have... I think Jacksonville's defense is going to be a little bit more... I shouldn't say more active, but I think they're going to score more points going against that Carolina team. Even though Carolina did just go toe-to-toe with Green Bay, Broncos did just lose to New England. So I don't know. With Easton Stick at QB for the Chargers, we'll see. I think the Jags are going to throw up bigger points. Now, if we go into the kickers, we have Evan McPherson and Cincy taking on KC versus Brandon Aubrey and Dallas taking on Detroit. I think, as much as Jake Browning's been pretty spectacular for Cincinnati, so if he can get them within range, I think McPherson might be good, but Brandon Aubrey's been so good this season, especially as a rookie. I'm going to roll Brandon Aubrey on this one because I could totally see Dak and the boys getting stopped, but with the way Aubrey's been hitting it, why not let him go for it, So I think Aubrey's might have the better day here. All right. Oh, is this... Did I already look at our... Oh, no. Okay. Then this is our winner consolation. So this will be our third place game. Okay. And we got... so this will be Peanut Oil versus All Hail the Sun God. So we got Josh Allen and Buffalo taking on New England versus Jordan Love and Green Bay taking on Minnesota. Josh Allen, this one just 100% matchup based. Josh Allen, Buffalo actually playing pretty good. New England, they are coming off a win against the Broncos, but just matchups too good. I know Jordan's playing pretty good too. But, sometimes he doesn't play so good. Anyway, if we move into the running backs, we have Elvin Kamara in New Orleans taking on Tampa versus Austin Eckler and the Chargers taking on Denver. Give me Austin Eckler in this one, maybe. He's been having a pretty mediocre season. Kamara, I could totally see him bust off for a big one, although he has also been kind of having a down year as well. But I like Eckler this one. Moving to the running backs, we have Ty Chandler in Minnesota taking on Green Bay versus Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City taking on Cincy. For this one, I think a lot of it is going to be obviously depending if Pacheco can go and it's healthy. Unfortunately, Green Bay does give up a ton of yards to running backs. But Pacheco is just hard to doubt. He one of the angriest runners, as they say, in the NFL. Give me Give me Ty Chandler to have an insane day against Green Bay. Let's go to the wide receivers. We have Deebo Samuel in San Fran taking on Washington versus Amon-Ra in Detroit taking on Dallas. Ooh. I want to go Amon-Ra, but I could totally see Dallas not 100% locking him down, but giving Amon-Ra some problems. While Deebo, I do not see... It's not like the entire offense is running through him. There's just so many avenues for that team to score. So give me Amon-Ra on this one, just by a hair. If we go into the next set of wide receivers, we have Cooper Kupp and the Rams taking on the Giants versus Rashee Rice and KC taking on Cincy. Gotta go Cooper Kupp, just number one wide receiver there. Insane production always, going against a not very good Giants team. Not much to say. Now if we go into the tight ends, we have Isaiah Likely in Baltimore taking on and going against Miami versus Dalton Kincaid and Buffalo taking on New England. Well, Dalton Kincaid used to be the play here, but since the return of Dawson Knox, his production is 100% dip. So, and you got to roll with Isaiah Likely here, who's actually been pretty much a stud in absence of Mark Andrews. Now, if we move into the flex spot, we have Curtis Samuel in Washington taking on San Fran versus Zay Flowers in Baltimore taking on Miami. Probably give me Zay Flowers in this one, even though they're going against a tough Miami defense. Zay Flowers is kind of pretty much their gadget guy there in Baltimore. Curtis Samuel is going up against a very tough defense in San Fran, so that's why. What is? Alright, then we've got the defenses. So we have the Browns and Cleveland taking on the Jets versus the Colts and Indy taking on the Raiders. Give me the Browns to beat up on that Jets offense, while the Colts, I don't really trust them. But they're what I have for right now, so I should maybe pick up a new one or something. Anywho, if we go into the kickers, we have Younghoe Koo in Atlanta taking on Chicago versus Cairo Santos. Chicago taking on Atlanta. Give me Cairo Santos. They're going against each other. Give me Younghoe Koo. He's been actually on a roll. Same thing with Cairo, but I think Chicago's been kind of on a roll too, but I think Younghoe Koo's just going to be better. Alright, moving into our third matchup, which was Team Dicka and Team Nugent taking on each other once again. So, starting with the QBs, once again, we have Justin Fields in Chicago taking on Atlanta versus Sam Howell and Washington taking on San Fran. Easy, gotta go Justin Fields. Not much of explanation needed, that is just matchup based. Running backs, let's go into the first set, which is Devon Achane versus in Miami taking on Baltimore versus Jahmyr Gibbs and Detroit taking on Dallas. I think Gibbs might have the better day here. I know David Montgomery's going to get used some, but they have been leaning a little bit more on the Gibbs height side of things. Dallas obviously going to be very, very tough, but I think he's just going to have a bit better of a day, whereas Devon Achane and a lot of that Miami team, they spread it out, and there's like Raheem Mostert and whatnot there as well. And Mostert been having a hell of a season. Moving to the running backs, we have Breece Hall and the Jets taking on Cleveland versus Raheem Mostert, and Miami taking on Baltimore. Even though Raheem Mostert, like I just said before, is probably my chin, and is the better of the two backs, in my opinion, between him and Achane. Breece Hall is on another level this season, and although he's not putting up MVP numbers, he is killing it, even though they're going against a tough defense in Cleveland. I think Breece Hall is going to have the better day. In the wide receiver 1 matchup, we have A.J. Brown and Philly taking on Arizona versus Jalen Waddle and Miami taking on Baltimore. I think probably A.J. Brown. Especially that's just matchup based. Moving to the next set of wide receivers, we have Deontay Johnson in Pittsburgh taking on Seattle versus Mike Evans at Tampa taking on New Orleans. I'm going to give you Mike Evans. He's been on a roll, tough defense there in New Orleans. But I just like the way Mike Evans has been playing. Him and Baker have been on killing it as of late. Hard to go against it. In the tight end spot, we have Sam Laporta in Detroit taking on Evan Engram. Evan Engram in Detroit taking on Dallas versus Evan Engram in Jacksonville taking on Carolina. Going matchup based, give me Evan Engram in this one. Although Sam Laporta is definitely going to get some looks and some targets 100% in that Dallas game. Flex, let's take a look. We have Jerome Ford in Cleveland taking on the Jets versus Puka Nacua and the Rams taking on the Giants. I like Puka on this one, purely matchup based. Kind of pick on the Giants a little bit here. Moving into the let's see. Moving into the defenses, we have the Bears in Chicago taking on the Bears taking on Atlanta versus the Falcons taking on Chicago. So these two teams will be going against each other. Give me the Bears because they're playing at home and they've been playing somewhat decent ball. Atlanta, not so good on the offensive side there as of late. Well, somewhat, but not like, you know, world moving. Oh, what metaphor was it there? Shooting, therefore. Weird. Anyway, let's go to the kickers. Jake Moody and San Fran going against Washington versus Cameron Dicker and the Chargers taking on Denver. I think they're going to be more of a buzzsaw to Washington, so I think Moody isn't going to have a ton of like field goal shots as he will extra point shots. Cameron Dicker, though, might actually have and will have probably more actual field goal hits, as I could totally see that team stalling often against that Denver team, forcing Cameron Dicker to kick a lot of field goals. All right, in our next matchup, we have CD's Nuts taking on Kelsey softly. Once again, starting off with our QBs, we have Denver and Russell Wilson taking on the Chargers versus Jalen Hurts and Philly taking on Arizona. Matchup base, gotta go with Philly and Jalen Hurts on this one for sure, 100%. In the running backs, we have Bijan Robinson in Atlanta taking on Chicago versus Rashad White and Tampa taking on New Orleans. Rashad White having an insane season as well. You do like Bijan, and he's coming off a pretty good week last week. Going up against a better Chicago Bears defense, though. I think, you know what, give me Bijan on this one. In the next set of running backs, we have Kenneth Walker in Seattle taking on Pittsburgh versus Chuba Hubbard and Carolina taking on Jacksonville. Gotta go with Kenneth on this one, even though they are going against a tough Pitt team. I just think Chuba is probably going to get bottled up a little bit against Jacksonville. Then in the first set of wide receivers, we have Kelvin Ridley in Jacksonville taking on Carolina versus Devontae Adams and the Raiders taking on Indy. Probably Kelvin Ridley have the better day, purely matchup based. If we look into the next set of wide receivers, we have Ayuk and San Fran taking on Washington versus CeeDee Lamb and Dallas taking on Detroit. Ooh. It's another good one. I think Ayuk, just because it seems like out of the preferred wide receivers, it seems like Ayuk tends to be the first look. Going against a porous Washington team, so I think Ayuk's going to have a better day. Moving to the tight ends, we have Travis Kelce and KC taking on Cincinnati versus Jake Ferguson and Dallas taking on Detroit. Maybe I think probably Travis Kelce, honestly. Especially if him and Mahomes can actually get on the same page and the Chiefs can kind of correct some things. Playing against Cincy, that'll be a good test, but I think he might edge out Jake Ferguson. We're playing a tough Detroit team. In the flex spot, we got Jaden Reed in Green Bay taking on Minnesota versus Pittman Jr. and Indy taking on Vegas. Both these guys are questionable, but if they're good to go, I'd say Pittman Jr. is going to have the better day. Although they do use Jaden Reed a lot, like how they use Deebo Samuel. Then if we go into the defenses, we have the Chiefs and KC taking on Cincy versus the Cowboys and Dallas taking on Detroit. Dallas defense has been very good, but haven't been good against good teams. That's So I guess giving me the Chiefs in a close one against Cincy. And then the kickers, we have Lucas Haverisk. The Rams taking on the Giants versus Justin Tucker, and Baltimore taking on Miami. Ooh, give me Justin Tucker in this one. He's just too good to bet against, especially in a game that could see teams like driving down the field and then stop within field goal range, which for Justin Tucker seems to be pretty much anywhere. Alright, in our second to last matchup of the week, we have Better on Paper taking on Pool of Dumpster Water. Alright, starting off the top, we have Lamar Jackson, Baltimore taking on Miami versus Derek Carr in New Orleans taking on Tampa. Ooh. Probably Lamar.
Dilly dilly.
Dilly dilly. Thank you. What's going on, Cajun Streamer? Thank you so much for the dilly dilly. How we doing? How we feeling? Let's see. I like Derek Carr. He did have a very good week last week, but I think MVP candidate and Lamar Jackson is going to have the better day on this one. Let's see here. If we move into the running backs, we got Joe Mixon and Cincy taking on KC versus Christian McCaffrey and San Fran taking on Washington. Oof. Got to go with McCaffrey in this one. Obviously, matchup base, he's just straight killing it. MVP candidate himself. Moving into the running backs, we have Alexander Madison in Minnesota taking on Green Bay versus Gus Edwards in Baltimore taking on Miami. I mean, I expect probably Gus Edwards. It's going to be tough against Miami, but I think he might have the better day than Madison. Moving to the wide receivers, we have Gabe Davis in Buffalo taking on New England versus Chris Olave in New Orleans taking on Tampa. I got to pick on the matchup again with Buffalo and New England. So Gabe Davis is a pick. Moving to the second wide receiver, we have Michael Gallup in Dallas taking on Detroit versus Tyler Lockett in Seattle taking on Pitt. Give me Tyler Lockett on this one. Gallup seems to be almost like rarely used in that Dallas offense. So Lockett, who is, if not the number one, definitely the number two there in Seattle behind DK Metcalf. And if we move into the tight ends, we got Cole Kmet, Chicago taking on Atlanta versus Tyler Conklin and the Jets taking on Cleveland. If Kmet can go, I'd say go Cole. If we go into the flex spot, we got Odell Beckham Jr. Baltimore taking on Miami about Zach Charbonnet. Seattle taking on Pitt. Probably Zach Charbonnet. Even though it's going to be tough against Pitt. He's their one of their starting running backs essentially. OBJ, he's not like their number one wide receiver, obviously, but I expect Zach Charbonnet to have the better day. Now, if we go into defenses, we have the Niners and San Fran taking on Washington versus the Vikings and Minnesota taking on Green Bay. Gotta go with the Niners on this one. Just too good of a matchup to pass up. Then if we go into the kickers, we got Tyler Bass in Buffalo taking on New England versus Will Lutz in Denver taking on the Chargers. Oddly enough, I think there's more opportunities for Will Lutz to stall out against the Charger, or for Russ Wilson and the boys in them to stall out and hit and allow Will Lutz to hit from far. Alright. Last matchup, Yoni. So now, in the starts of the QBs, we have and this is the Young Guns taking on Bob's Burgers. Stretch. All right. So now we have Patrick Mahomes and KC taking on Cincy versus Jared Goff and Detroit taking on Dallas. Give me Mahomes in a bounce back game, I hope. If we move into the running backs, we have James Cook in Buffalo taking on New England versus Derrick Henry and Tennessee taking on Houston. Give me James Cook because that matchup is just too good, and he's been on fire as of late. Running backs, we have Kyron Williams and the Rams taking on DeAndre Swift and Philly taking on Arizona. Going to take Swift on this one. Again, matchup. I mean, a lot of these are going to be matchup based. Then if we go into the wide receiver one, we have DeAndre Hopkins, who's able to go. DeAndre Hopkins, who takes on Houston this week versus T. Higgins and Cincy KC. Probably T. Higgins. I think him and Jake Browning have been killing it as of late, especially with Jamar Chase being out. Higgins has been absorbing a lot of those targets. Moving to the next set of wide receivers, we have DK Metcalf in Seattle taking on Pitt versus Rondale Moore in Arizona taking on Philly. I'd go DK in this one, even though the matchup isn't exactly favorable. If we go into the tight ends, we have Kyle Pitts in Atlanta taking on Chicago versus Pat Freiermuth and Pitt taking on Seattle. I don't necessarily trust Kyle Pitts, but I guess that's who we're gonna roll with. Now if you go into the flex spot, we got Scary Terry McLaurin in Washington taking on San Fran versus Garrett Wilson and the Jets taking on Cleveland. Probably Garrett Wilson have the better day, but not by much, honestly. Then if we go into the defenses, we have the Commanders in Washington taking on San Fran versus the Lions taking on Dallas. I think the Lions will have more defensive states than the Commanders will. Then if we get to the kickers, we have Jake Elliott in Philly taking on Arizona versus Matt Gay and Indy taking on Las Vegas. Let's see. Commanders have San Fran versus Lions, who have Dallas. It's not really ideal for either, but I guess Lions. And if we go kickers, Jake Elliott versus Matt Gay. Probably go Jake Elliott. Alright. Oh, nice. Okay. That was our picks for the Fantasy Football Championship. So let's do this. Let me switch this. We'll do the schedule and make our picks for next week. Thursday, we have one Saturday game. And then, oh, because there's no New Year's Day games. Okay, I guess I understand. Trying to get these all in one. Is this all of them? Yeah. Alright. Snag this. Alright. We close this. Let's put okay. Jets, Browns. Give me Joe Flacco on the Browns. Cowboys, Lions. At home. Give me the Lions. Dolphins, Ravens. Playing at the Ravens. Give me the Ravens. Patriots, Bills. Bills. Falcons, Bears. Give me the Falcons. Titans, Texans. Oh, wait. Is CJ Stroud going to be back? It's a great question. Let's Google. CJ Stroud. It just says he's progressing. If he plays, this is going to be if he plays. Raiders, Colts. Shane Steichen and the boys playing at home. Raiders have been playing good as of late. Give me the Raiders. Jags, Panthers, definitely the Panthers. Giants, Rams, Eagles, Cards, Eagles, Saints, Bucks. I like the way Baker and the boys have been playing. Niners, Commanders, definitely the Niners. Seahawks and Steelers. Give me the Seahawks. Chargers, Broncos. Probably the Broncos. Bengals, Chiefs. Ooh. I'm gonna choose Chiefs again. Packers, Vikings. Gotta go with the Pack. Alright. That's week 17's picks. Alright, we went 10-6 last week, so let's see if we can do a little bit better this week. Alright. Well, that's all I got for y'all this time, and in this good old little stream run. Thanks for hanging for a bit, y'all. It was always planned to be a super short one. Like I said, I was just doing this Fantasy House Live real quick before tomorrow, which is the Tarkov wipe. Not sure if I'll stream, maybe, probably at some point, I guess. But let's see, we have a few peeps. Is there anyone we can raid? Oh, here's someone we haven't seen in a while. This works. Alright. I'll catch you guys later. You guys have been amazing. And, yo, if you guys are, new here, please feel free to hit that follow button, because that would mean a great deal to me. Additionally, you can hit the bell so you get notified when we get live. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, because this stream actually will get exported to the YouTubes, one, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. If you thought how the picks were going as well as you thought is, tell me if you thought my picks were shit. I'd always love to know. Anywho, you can also share the video. That'll also help grow the community as well. Additionally, you can go ahead and smash that sub button, because we are still building up this humble community we got around here. Anyways, that's it for me. I will catch you guys later, and I hope you guys had a great night and enjoyed the content. As always, you guys mean a lot to me. I'll see you next time. Peace out, stay safe, much love, and I'll see you later. Bye!